There she was, Catherine, Princess of Wales, walking into Windsor Castle with diamonds scattered across her forehead like she was sending a message that nobody, and I mean nobody, could ignore. And let me tell you something right now, that wasn't just jewelry she was wearing, that was a declaration, a statement, a not-so-subtle warning across the bow of everyone who's been writing the monarchy's obituary for the past 12 months. Because here's the thing about the British royal family right now. It's burning, or at least parts of it are. And while the flames have been licking at the edges of the institution, Kate Middleton just walked through the fire wearing diamonds that belonged to Princess Diana, Queen Mary, and quite possibly the most famous tiara in the entire royal vault. But why? Why now? And what does this glittering headpiece actually tell us about the future of the crown? According to royal commentators who've been dissecting every single frame of Wednesday night's state banquet for Nigeria's president, this wasn't just Kate showing up looking beautiful. This was Kate showing up looking like a queen. And I'm not being dramatic here. Sources close to palace circles are suggesting that the timing of this particular tiara moment is anything but coincidental. Let me rewind for a second because you need to understand what we're actually looking at. The headpiece in question is Queen Mary's Lover's Knot tiara. It's the one Princess Diana made famous in the 1980s, the one with the dangling pearls that sway whenever the wearer moves, the one that screams, "I am part of something ancient and unstoppable." And Kate has worn it before, plenty of times, but according to fashion historians and royal insiders, this particular appearance hit different. Why? Because of what's been happening behind those palace walls. While Kate was having her hair pinned up and diamonds arranged just so, her uncle-in-law, Prince Andrew, was getting arrested on his 66th birthday. Let that sink in for a moment. February 19th, his birthday, police show up. They're investigating claims that he shared confidential information with Jeffrey Epstein during his time as a UK trade envoy. And according to documents that keep surfacing, the connections between Epstein and various members of the royal orbit just won't stop multiplying. Sarah Ferguson, Andrew's ex-wife, nowhere to be seen since December 2025. Reports indicate she checked into a wellness center in Switzerland, and her spokesperson isn't returning calls. Meanwhile, correspondence between Fergie and Epstein surfaced in those January 30th document releases from the Justice Department. And while inclusion doesn't imply wrongdoing, we have to be very careful about that. The optics are absolutely devastating. So here's the picture. The monarchy is bleeding. Andrew stripped of his titles, his royal residence, his dignity. Fergie vanished. Charles dealing with the fallout of having to discipline his own brother. And in the middle of all this chaos, Kate Middleton walks into a room wearing a tiara that connects her directly to the most beloved royal figures of the past century, and she looks like she owns the place. You see the strategy, right? This isn't accidental. This is choreographed. According to royal commentator Amanda Mata, who's been tracking Kate's fashion choices for years, the Princess of Wales has been sending signals through her wardrobe that most people completely miss. Mata told Fox News Digital that Kate's tiara choices prioritize messages of continuity. She's not trying to be a trendsetter up there. She's trying to remind everyone that the institution existed before the scandals and will exist after them. But here's where it gets really interesting. During the daytime portion of the Nigerian state visit, Kate wore something that made the fashion world lose its collective mind. She wore Tolu Coker. Now, unless you follow high fashion, that name might not mean anything to you, but Tolu Coker is a British-Nigerian designer whose work is rooted in Nigerian diasporic identity, her mother's migration history, and pointed critiques of Western waste economies. This wasn't just wearing green because Nigeria's flag is green. This was deep, layered, meaningful diplomatic dressing that signals something profound about how Kate views her role. Mata called it the most interesting piece of diplomatic dressing Kate has done in years, and I have to agree, because if you're watching carefully, you can see the blueprint. Kate is positioning herself as someone who understands nuance, who respects cultures, who thinks beyond the surface level. And then, at night, she puts on Diana's tiara and reminds everyone that she's also the future queen. But we have to ask the question that nobody seems to want to answer directly. Is this working? Is the public buying it? According to Justine Picardi, author of Fashioning the Crown, the answer is yes, and the reason goes deeper than just liking Kate's dresses. Picardi points out that Kate has been quietly visiting British textile mills, supporting British artisanship, doing exactly the kind of thing that Queen Elizabeth II and the Queen Mother did for decades. She's building credibility brick by brick, thread by thread, diamond by diamond. And that tiara, the lover's knot, it's doing something specific to our brains when we see it. We see Diana, we see grace, we see tragedy overcome, we see continuity, we see the fact that this family, despite everything, still has its heirlooms, still has its traditions, still has its ability to put on a show that stops the world in its tracks. Picardi made an observation that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. She said that somebody once told her Queen Elizabeth was the only person who knew how to put on a tiara with one hand while walking down the stairs. It became second nature to her. And now Kate has reached that point. She doesn't wear tiaras so often that it loses impact, but she wears them often enough that she looks natural. She looks like she should be wearing one. She looks like it belongs there. And that right there is the whole game, because if you can make people believe that you belong in the crown, you're already halfway to wearing it. But let's talk about the diamonds we haven't seen yet, because according to experts, the palace has been holding back. Mata explained that there's an unspoken tiara hierarchy within the royal family. There are starter tiaras, the ones worn at weddings or early in public life. Then there are long-term loans, the ones we see Kate return to as part of her established role. And then, and this is where it gets juicy, there are the most significant high-impact pieces with the strongest historical ties to the sovereign's role. Those tiaras, the ones with the biggest diamonds, the most history, the most visual presence, they get lent out based on timing and status. And according to Mata, the palace has effectively been holding those tiara moments in reserve for Kate. They're waiting, they're saving them, so that when she does step into the role of queen, the visuals can evolve with her.
That's not accident. That's planning. That's strategy. That's people who understand that images last longer than headlines, and that a photograph of a woman in diamonds can outlive 1,000 scandals. Now, I have to insert my own opinion here because I've been covering this stuff long enough to see patterns. The royal family has made so many mistakes over the past few years that it's almost hard to count them. Andrew alone has caused damage that might take decades to repair. The Epstein connections, the handling of Meghan and Harry, the constant drip, drip, drip of negative stories. It's been brutal. And yet, when Kate walks into a room wearing that tiara, standing next to William, looking every inch the future queen, something shifts. For just a moment, the drama fades and the institution feels solid again. Is that fair? Probably not. Is it deserved? Debatable. But is it effective? Absolutely. Because here's the psychological truth that the palace understands better than almost anyone. Humans need symbols. We need things to believe in. We need visual representations of stability and continuity. And a woman in a historic tiara, standing in a castle that stood for 1,000 years, hosting a foreign dignitary with grace and poise, that scratches an itch in our collective psyche that scandals and controversies just can't reach. The Nigerians certainly seemed impressed. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his wife were greeted by William and Kate first, before anyone else. That's significant. That's the heir and his wife taking point on diplomatic relations. That's the future happening in real time. And can we talk about the dress Kate wore with the tiara? Because the details matter here. She wore a dress by Andrew Ginn, and the green hue wasn't just pretty, it was a tribute to Nigeria's flag. She paired it with earrings from Queen Elizabeth's collection. So you've got British designer, Nigerian colors, the late Queen's jewelry, Diana's tiara. Every single element is communicating something. Every thread is pulling weight. This is not a woman who woke up and threw something on. This is a woman and a team who understand that monarchy is performance, and performance requires intention. But here's the loop I opened at the beginning, and I need to close it. What does this actually mean for the future? Is Kate really ready to be queen? And more importantly, is the country ready for her? According to Picardy, the tiara is not a crown, but it's on the ladder up toward the crown. Nobody wears the crown until their coronation, but a tiara is a reminder of the future as well as the past. And when you put on a tiara that's been worn by previous royal women, previous princesses, previous queens, it's a direct link to what happened before. Picardy said she can't think of anything more extraordinarily tactile than putting on jewelry that has sat on the heads of these past women. And I think that's the piece we're missing when we just look at the pictures and move on. Kate Middleton, a woman who grew up in a normal house in a normal town, now puts on jewelry that once rested on the head of Queen Mary, who was born in 1867. She wears diamonds that Diana wore to the White House. She carries the weight of all those women every time she walks into a room. That changes you. That shapes you. That either breaks you or makes you into something stronger. And from where I'm sitting, it looks like it's making her stronger. Because while Andrew's future looks uncertain, while Fergie's whereabouts remain mysterious, while the palace deals with one crisis after another, Kate just keeps showing up. Keeps wearing the right things, keeps saying the right things without saying anything at all, keeps reminding us that the monarchy isn't just about the people causing drama, it's about the institution that outlasts them all. The Lover's Knot tiara has sat on the heads of some of the most famous women in British history. It's seen empires shift, wars end, technologies change, societies transform. And there it was on Wednesday night, sparkling under the lights at Windsor Castle, doing exactly what it's done for 100 years, reminding everyone watching that some things endure. Kate Middleton understands that. She's betting her entire future on it, and if the experts are right, she's about to prove that diamonds aren't just forever, they're strategic. The palace has been holding those big tiaras in reserve, waiting for the right moment, waiting for her to be ready, waiting for the public to be ready. And if this week is any indication, that moment might be closer than we think. Because when you can walk into a room where half your family is in crisis, wearing a tiara that belonged to one of the most beloved women in history, standing next to your husband who will one day be king, hosting a foreign leader while your father-in-law watches approvingly from nearby, that's not just a fashion choice. That's a power move. And let me tell you something, the people who've been writing off the monarchy, they weren't watching Kate's face on Wednesday night. They weren't seeing what I saw, because what I saw was someone who knows exactly who she is, exactly where she's going, and exactly what she's willing to do to get there. The tiara was just the messenger. The message? The crown is coming, and when it does, she'll be ready. Now, here's the part that keeps me up at night. What happens when those reserve tiaras finally come out? What happens when Kate stops wearing the lover's knot and starts wearing the pieces that haven't been seen in decades? What does that moment look like? What does it mean? According to Mata, wearing those top-tier tiaras signals a shift in rank. They tend to be lent out based on timing in one's public life and status within the institution. So the fact that Kate hasn't worn them yet tells us something important. The palace is pacing this. They're building towards something. They're controlling the narrative so carefully that even the diamonds have a schedule. And that right there is why this story matters. Because it's not about jewelry. It's about power. It's about succession. It's about the 1,000-year-old institution figuring out how to survive in a world that's increasingly skeptical of inherited privilege and ancient traditions. If Kate can pull this off, if she can transition from princess to queen without losing the public's affection, without triggering the kind of backlash that's consumed so many royals before her, she'll have accomplished something remarkable. And she'll have done it, at least in part, by understanding that every appearance is an argument, every outfit is an opinion, and every tiara is a testament to the idea that some things are worth preserving. The banquet ended, the guests went home, the headlines were written, but that image, Kate in the lover's knot, diamonds catching the light, standing tall while her family's foundation shook, that image is going to last. It's going to be studied. It's going to be remembered. And years from now, when we look back at this chaotic moment in royal history, we might just realize that the woman in the tiara was the one who held it all together. Not with speeches, not with interviews, not with tell-alls or exposés, with diamonds, with silence, with the simple, devastating power of showing up and looking like you belong on a throne. That's the signal Kate Middleton sent on Wednesday night. And if you missed it, don't worry. She'll send it again, and again, and again, until there's no question left about who's ready to be queen. The only question now is whether the rest of the family can hold on long enough for her to get there.